It was Francis, and I really enjoy working with him. And, he did such an amazing job with Catching Fire and the Mockingjays. And, Catching Fire was my first one and only one, until this one. So I was really interested to tackle it again with him. And then also when he presented that it would be a completely different look and a completely different time period, that was interesting to me, to kind of show where Pan Am kind of started, how, this whole world began, and then how it grows into becoming Catching Fire. There was a lot of conversation about Lucy Gray's rainbow dress. There's a lot of description in the book, and then there was the descriptions in the script. And for me, that's one of the things that I had to spend a lot of time in my head about, because I really wanted to be respectful to Suzanne and what she saw and wrote in her book. But as we know, when you read, and what's great about books is we all can envision things in our own way. We all interpret things differently, even down to color. So keeping in mind, that I have this fan base that I really want to give them some really great eye candy to look at and make them excited about what this dress is. It's also, paying homage to Suzanne and what she thinks. I decided I wanted to do it in pieces and not make it just be a dress. Also, that helped us a lot for all the action and movement that she would have to have. So when I was kind of working on it, my head just went to trying to have a tie-in for the fans and also giving Rachel something, because these are big shoes to fill. Even though she's not Katniss and she's not trying to be the young Katniss, it is the thing of giving her some connection that she could have something physically as the actor to work with. So I wanted to do the silhouette and the shape of the corset of the same dress I made for Katniss as the Mockingjay when she spins in the blue dress with the wings. So doing the same shape of that corset, and then adding the primrose and Katniss flowers, and those are hand painted, and the snakes, because Rachel's character has this affinity and this connection to snakes. So there's hand painted snakes, primrose and Katniss flowers on the corset. And then under the corset is a peasant blouse, and there's smocking in the sleeves that are all done in rainbow colors. They're really, really delicate, and so you may not see them on the big screen, but for us in person, you can see it. And it's all those little details is what I really, really love. That was my first time working with Uli and his whole team, and I have to say the locations were really, really incredible. So it was talking with him early on to see, where I could have color, where I needed to have lack of color. So seeing, all these location photographs of, these really kind of gray tones and very cement tones, and then talking with him about, what we saw for the academy, because I really wanted to use red for the, for all the uniforms for the students in the academy. Rouge. So it really worked well in the environments that Uli had, because they were these colder, concrete and marble environments. So the colors worked well there. But yeah, for me, it's really important that I can work closely with a production designer, because I want my characters to fit into their world. With Dr. Gold, one of the things Francis brought out to me early on was he said, she has this Willy Wonka essence to her. And so without getting to be too comical or repeating something that we've seen in other films or in the past, so for me, it was taking that into consideration, and also my wanting her to be, a character in the film that is a little bit more fashion forward and advanced than, say, the rest of the people in the Capitol, just because of she's this mad scientist. And so I kind of took that interpretation of Willy Wonka and then added this mad scientist, and then Dr. Frankenstein is kind of where I wanted to go with it. And so for her character, it was really important to have color and a lot of texture and patterns, a lot of, kind of very progressive textiles and fabrications that we used, because she does have this really, her character has this really jovial side to her and this childlike side, and she's always kind of smiling and, gives these kind of very funny phrases and riddles that she kind of does. So it's this nice juxtaposition of this childlike, innocent quality to her, but then there's this really, really dark, evil side to her. And so I wanted to translate that into a lot of the shapes and the silhouettes in her clothes. With Tom's character for Snow, again, it was trying to, kind of had these little Easter eggs for the fans and kind of keeping this lineage from what we see as Snow and Songbirds, and then what we see of, you know, Donald Sutherland later as Snow, and having certain things kind of crossover as far as color palette or silhouettes and shapes. And with Tom's character, in the beginning, we see him, you know, kind of the first thing we see is for the ceremony that he thinks he's going to win this prize. And it actually turns into being the day of the reaping. And so with that, it's in the book, it references, you know, that Tigress makes him this shirt, and she takes these tiles from the bathroom to make him buttons. And so that was another thing I worked with Yuli and his art director on, was we fabricated these buttons. The idea I had with the whole Snow family is that Tigress is kind of the person who's holding them together. You know, since she, in the later films, she has an atelier, she's a clothing designer, and we see a little bit of that in this film. So in my head, she's the person who is, you know, resurrecting any old pieces that they have, freshening them up, making them look new, and keeping them very presentable and having this air about them to the rest of the world. For Tigress, she, along with Dr. Gold, were the two characters that I wanted to be the most capital-like. And with Tigress's character later, she is extremely fashion-forward and very of the capital world. So I wanted to give a little hint of that in this film. And I also wanted to give a little nod to Effie's character in the very first Hunger Games. So there's a designer that I love, the period designer Lily Ann, and she made beautiful women's suiting that would be very extreme shapes. So it was very classic 40s and 50s, but it was very exaggerated, like the nipped in waist, a very strong shoulder. And luckily, you know, with Hunter, she looks amazing in everything you put on her. So she was a total joy to dress. With Lucky's character, you know, he's scripted as he's a weatherman, and he's getting this great opportunity to be kind of the talking head of the Hunger Games. And with him, I wanted to have a progression of how he builds with fame, and, you know, doing that with his costumes as well. We start off in, you know, kind of more subdued suitings, but he has this flash that keeps progressing up to a tuxedo, you know. And Jason was so much fun in fittings. He would come in with all these ideas of, you know, magic tricks that he could do, and how could we incorporate that in the costumes.